Welcome back, casual gardeners. Mulch is one of the most important things in my garden. It's in my paths, it's in my beds, it's even in my greenhouse. It may just be one of the most powerful tools that I have as a gardener, especially in a arid climate. So what is mulch? Let's just call mulch a layer of material that is applied to the soil. And that opens a whole can of worms. That means that, technically roads are mulch. There's a lot of stuff that by that definition becomes mulch that isn't, but still I need it to be that broad because of the many uses for mulch that are not always helpful. We've got two basic subcategories of mulch. There is organic mulch and inorganic mulch. Organic mulches are going to be stuff that is alive or was alive, basically. Leaves or wood chips, grass clippings, compost can be a mulch, and straw is a popular mulch. There are big benefits to using an organic mulch. It'll improve your soil health, and the way it does that is it breaks down over time. Even this dyed crap from Lowe's will eventually improve your soil health by breaking down over time. I usually prefer not to use dyed crap from Lowe's, but it was hard for me to track down a arborist and get the good stuff. And the reason we want our mulch to break down over time is that our soil is constantly losing carbon. It decomposes and turns into carbon dioxide and goes back into the atmosphere, and we need to replace it. So an organic mulch helps to do that. Mulching allows us to recycle materials that would otherwise fill up a landfill. Organic mulch can also provide habitat for native bees and beneficial insects. So those are the benefits of organic mulch. There are some cons. So con number one, I've also listed it as a benefit. It breaks down, you need to replace it. So I spent many an unhappy hour spreading this crap from Lowe's in my pathways because the other stuff had broken down over time, and I was getting to a point where there was so little mulch in my pathways that I was getting mud on my shoes again. Another con for organic mulch is, in addition to providing habitat for good bugs, it also provides habitat for some questionable bugs and some pests. Some people say that organic mulch can tie up nitrogen in the soil while it breaks down. I've got some issues with that because most of the decomposers that are breaking down your mulch are too small to effectively bridge the gap between your mulch and the soil. Even where it's in contact, we're looking at bacteria, so we're going to have this paper thin layer where the mulch is touching the soil, and from that paper thin layer you may get some scavenging of nitrogen. But if the mulch were not there, the plant roots would not be using that top layer of your soil because it dries out too much. It's unstable. Only the mulch is what's making that stable enough for your plants to consider putting their roots there. So I don't consider that lost real estate in the garden because it wasn't going to be used without the mulch. This is a big issue. Mulch can introduce weed seed that wasn't previously there. I think I may have introduced, for instance, goat head seeds when I mulched my bed last year with lawn clippings. So now I've been pulling goat head, which is terrible, I hate it, out of my garden bed. I'd rather have the goat head germinating in my garden bed where I check regularly and pull weeds than in my lawn where it might get missed before it reseeds. So, yeah. Depending on the mulch material, you may be bringing in diseases with your organic mulch, and you can't be 100% sure that you're not doing that, so it's a risk you accept. There will be mold, especially when your mulch is fresh, and it might freak you out. The freaking out is the detriment. The mold itself, not a big deal. Fungus naturally occurs in soil, and it is generally more good than harm. There are some fungi that will hurt your plants, like rusts and other things, but mostly those are growing on or in your plants. So you're not going to see them, or you're going to see them on your plant. If you see a mushroom not on a plant, it's good. Give it a smooch unless it's poisonous, and be happy you've got a mushroom. Finer mulches that compact, or larger leaves that compact, may reduce water flow into your soil. If you use your mulch like I do and apply it on top of your drip irrigation system, that doesn't matter because the water is being applied under the mulch. So inorganic mulches can be things like pea gravel or rocks, rubber mulch, landscape fabric, and even plastic sheet mulch. And if you're using plastic sheet mulch in your garden, we call that plasticulture. I hate it, but if it helps you, I mean, I'm not gonna come to your garden and judge you unless you buy me a plane ticket, which is totally allowed. I would make that video. So there are also pros and cons with inorganic mulches. Pro number one, and this is the big one that gets people all excited, is you don't have to replace it as often. Some of it will break down over time, like rubber mulch will still react in the sunlight and powder, and you'll have to add more rubber mulch. But things like rocks are, I mean, they're going to be there long after you're dead. Inorganic mulches, again, depending on the mulch, tend to be more stable in the wind. Leaves especially will blow away, but rocks, nah. You do have a little bit more fine control over the effects that your mulch has. Like you can use a lighter colored inorganic mulch, like white sheet mulch, to reflect heat and keep your soil cool. You can use a darker colored mulch, like black sheet mulch, to warm your soil up faster, or to give your heat-loving plants warm soil throughout the year. It's less likely to track into your home. This is a big issue for me. I have to take off my gardening shoes at the door before I go inside, or else I have to do a bunch of sweeping, and that sucks. Most inorganic mulches are more flame resistant than most organic mulches. So if you live somewhere with a lot of wildfire issues, you for instance, don't want to be piling 2 or 3 inches of leaf mulch all over your garden beds, because that's going to dry out and be incredibly flammable. And if you've got your garden next to your house, which I don't, well, that's a big issue. But, and I cannot emphasize this enough, there are also cons to inorganic mulch. It will not improve your soil, and it may actually degrade your soil depending on the mulch you choose and how you use it. Dark colored mulches may overheat your soil. Almost all the inorganic mulchers are a giant pain in the plumber's crack to remove if you want to do something else with that plot of land. Organic mulches, you can maybe even just till them in and leave them there. Depending on the mulch, you may wind up blocking water flow into or out of the soil. It tends to cost more. It's not going to cost more than this crappy Lowe's mulch, but I mean, I got my leaf mulch for free. You can't beat free. Some inorganic mulches may leach chemicals into your soil, and if you're a chemical phobe, that's not good. But most importantly of all, the biggest drawback of inorganic mulches is I will come to your home and tell you that your garden is ugly. What do we use mulch for? So many things. You can use mulch to suppress weeds. Now, mulch is only going to stop annual weeds. It will not stop perennial weeds. So if you are struggling with bindweed in your garden, you'll continue to struggle with bindweed in your garden. But it will stop things like prickly lettuce and common mallow and stuff like that. You'll want a thick enough layer to block light. So if you have a coarse mulch that is pretty permeable, you're going to want at least 3 or 4 inches. If you have a finer mulch that blocks light more reliably, you can get away with 1 to 2 inches. And you don't want to overuse your mulch because every inch more than you have to use does reduce the oxygen diffusing into and out of your soil, which can actually suffocate your roots if you're not careful. That goes for both organic and inorganic mulches. You can use mulch to regulate your soil temperature. And I mean, you can really regulate your soil temperature. Today it is 96 degrees Fahrenheit, or this many science units. But this morning I watered my beds and then I applied my mulch. And right now, if I move my mulch aside and I feel my soil, it is still damp and it is still cool, even though I am both figuratively and literally decidedly uncool right now. Mulches can help you retain water in your soil, which can help prevent things like blossom end rot in your tomatoes. I already said you can use mulch to improve your soil. In my garden beds, I have added shredded leaf mulch, and I have an amazing leaf shredder that I was able to use to take my big maple leaves and turn them almost into leaf mold. Their texture is fantastic. At the end of the season, what hasn't already just naturally broken down, I can mix into my soil and increase my soil carbon if I want to. Alternatively, I can just leave it there and put a fresh layer of mulch on top, and the soil organisms will gradually incorporate that material down into the soil for me, no effort needed. You can use mulch to protect your crops from some pests. It won't protect all your crops, and it won't protect any crops from all the pests, but there are some like insect larvae or other critters that come up out of the soil and will chew on your ground fruits and your melons and your squashes that are in contact with the ground. If you have a layer of mulch underneath them, whether it is organic or inorganic, it reduces the soil contact and reduces the likelihood that those critters will find your delicious things delicious. Also, many natural pathogens are just present all the time in the soil. And when it rains or when you get worried about your plants and do a little overhead watering, they will splash up with the soil onto the lower leaves of your plants. The leaves are more vulnerable than the stems or the roots, and they will find purchase there and they will infect your plants. If you have a layer of mulch in the way, then there's less splashback of soil and fewer critters getting into your leaves via the water that splashes. Now, I love mulch, but there are some big mistakes you can make with mulch, and we should talk about those too. Mistake number 1 is the mulch volcano. Maybe you've seen this. This is where you're walking through a beautifully manicured landscape and you look at a tree, and down at the base of the tree, the mulch is kind of like almost at a 45-degree angle up onto the trunk of the tree. What you're doing there is you're taking that length of the stem or the trunk and you are making it vulnerable to things that otherwise would be repelled by the light of day. Freakish, terrifying, ugly things that will make their way into your plant and infect it and chew it up and kill it. So don't do the mulch volcano. In fact, if you're doing a tree, you want to pull all the mulch back a few inches from the base of the trunk. You want no contact between the trunk and the mulch. You want not a mulch volcano, you want a mulch donut. Also, if you make it too thick, as I already mentioned, you're blocking the oxygen flow to the roots, you're smothering them. You think you love them, but that is a pillow in their sleep on their little rooty faces, guys. Another mistake, and this is one I made, is you forget to replenish your mulch annually. That is why I have the cheap, crappy Lowe's mulch in my garden right now. I didn't forget. I couldn't find an arborist that would deliver mulch for me, and it got desperate, and my garden was filled all through all the pathways with prickly lettuce, and it was a nightmare. And I went to Lowe's and I bought this mulch, and then I brought it home and I didn't get around to spreading it right away. And then when I finally got around to spreading it, there were box elderbug nymphs, thousands of them in a seething mass all over my Lowe's mulch, and I had to use it anyway, and they were crawling all over my body, and I hated it. I hated it, guys. I'd much rather go with the arborist mulch. Another mistake people can make is letting their mulch get compacted. Yeah, just be careful with your mulch. Mix it with the coarser stuff. Another big mistake people make is they mulch too early in the spring. As I mentioned earlier, mulch has amazing temperature control properties. If you're using a loose organic mulch, no matter what color it is, it will keep your soil from warming up during the daytime. It's a layer of delightful insulation most of the time, but in the spring we want our soil to warm up. If you've applied mulch too soon, you will set back a lot of your plants. Even the cold-loving plants, like these peas, could use a little bit warmer soil to really take off for you. Oh no. Oh no. Mm. 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 Oh man, those are some sweet peas. The last mistake I want to talk about is forgetting to weed before you mulch. Mulch is powerful stuff, but it is not magic stuff. So go through and weed the area before you mulch it, because otherwise those weeds will just grow up through your mulch. And I found that weeds are easier to pull up when they're growing through mulch, so it could be a wash. I don't know. I won't tell you how to garden, except that's what this channel's all about. That is a whole video about mulch. Subscribe to my channel. You gotta subscribe, because eventually one of these bees flying around in the foreground is gonna sting me, and you wanna be around to see that. Like this video, because I'm a little punchy from all this heat, and I'm wearing way too much clothing for it, and I've probably been silly. You want more of that? Hit the like button and stuff. If you really want to help me out, become a channel member or buy me a plane ticket and I'll come to your garden and we'll make a video together. That's just an idea that popped in my head today. I blame the sun. The sun is harsh. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything important about mulch that you wish I had included in my video, because your comment could be vital information for somebody else to know. As always, thank you so much for joining me here in my garden, and I hope you have a wonderful time in your own.